Last week, federal prosecutors brought charges against 13 people for allegedly helping hacker group Anonymous carry out a string of cyber attacks in 2010. And today, the U.S. pushed forward with an arraignment of a few of those indicted. The defendants are being accused of taking part in something called Operation Payback, a group of attacks that took place between September 2010 and January of 2011, in which Anonymous initiated denial of service attacks on websites of major credit card companies, recording industry trade groups, and even a member of the rock band Kiss. The indictment against these individuals states Operation Payback targeted victims worldwide, including governmental entities, trade associations, individuals, law firms, and financial institutions, which Anonymous claimed opposed its stated philosophy of making all information free for all, including information protected by copyright laws or national security considerations. Our very own Andrew Blake was at one of the arraignment hearings in Virginia this afternoon and joins me now to discuss it a little bit more. Yeah. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the show. Give us a little history, first of all. Operation Payback, this technically all went down last week, but can you give us a brief history?
Yeah. It started back in late 2010, as you were saying earlier, and it's very similar to a couple other operations that have been waged by alleged members of Anonymous in the past, but the bare bones of it pretty much are a group of people. Who knows how many, a handful were indicted, but hundreds or thousands may have participated in this movement where they decided to target the websites of either corporations or government offices or any sort of entity that was litigating and trying to take down other people who were allegedly infringing on copyrighted material. Anonymous and a lot of people involved in like a free information movement and information activists and stuff like that generally oppose copyright law, say it puts restrictions on knowledge and hampers innovation, really. So during a course of a couple of weeks and a couple of months, members of Anonymous took down the websites for the Recording Institute, Association of America, the Motion Picture Association of America, the U.S. Copyright Office, a handful of others. Gene Simmons from Kiss's website was targeted because he was very pro-copyright law, and he became a target numerous times throughout the course of this operation. And it came and went, and it ended in, like you said, January 2011, and now, lo and behold, more than 2.5 years later, we're seeing indictment unsealed, and today the arraignment of a couple individuals.
Well, they're using the terminology denial of services. How do you distinguish that from, I guess, cyber attack or? Well,
it's not hacking, for sure.
It's not hacking.
What a distributed denial of service attack or DDoS or DDoS, some people have equated it as a form of digital protest. Now, what it pretty much does is it sends a bunch of traffic to a website. Now, let's say there's a website you don't like. What's your favorite website?
Putting me on the spot. I don't know. Okay. I'll just do the one I frequent most, Google.
Okay, of course. Now, Google's going to be really hard to DDoS because Google is gigantic. But what you would do is you would set up a piece of software called a low orbit ion cannon. It's a custom-made software that's distributed for free around the world, super easy to use. And you type in google.com in there, and you push a button, and your computer starts sending a request to Google, just as if you were to go to google.com in your regular browser. But your computer is going to send this request again and again and again and again and again and again. And again, and again, and again. And if you have enough people doing this, not with Google, but if you do it with a smaller, let's say the RIAA or the MPAA or one of these other sites that were legitimately targeted, or Gene Simmons' website, which I'm sure is awesome, you overload it with traffic, and legitimate users, you just think of it as like a traffic jam. There's too much traffic, and you can't actually access the site. So by Anonymous targeting these sites with DDoS, all they did was kind of just crumble under the traffic, and legitimate users weren't able to access those sites.
Oh, wow.
And for waging an attack that did that, these individuals are now looking at 5 years each.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about them. Talk about what you saw. Who exactly was arraigned today?
Okay, well, we're just a handful of people are involved. I just came back from Alexandria Eastern District Court up there. I saw the arraignment of 2 individuals, Dennis Owen Collins and Austin Stam. Mr. Collins is in his early 50s. He's from Ohio, and he's actually currently a co-defendant in a very similar case in which members of Anonymous targeted PayPal when PayPal began refusing to process donations for WikiLeaks back in 2010, and that spread for a little while. And that case itself, the PayPal 14, as they're called, there's 14 defendants in that case. That's been going on for 2.5 years now, and still hasn't been resolved. So I think that's really significant because we're looking at this indictment here for the payback 13 or 14, too many numbers going on. But the new case we're dealing with right now, for all we know, this could also take another 2.5 years, perhaps way longer. And then Mr. Stam, who appeared to be in his early to mid-20s, he's from Kansas, and just showed up today, said a couple of words. They were both arraigned, $25,000 bond. There's travel restrictions, internet restrictions for the individuals. And apparently a few others were also arraigned today in court, a different room, different judge. But this case is going to be going on for a while. I have a pretty good feeling.
Indeed, an array of backgrounds from those that were charged for sure. This isn't the first time we've seen sort of these charges against online activists. How does this really fit into the sort of larger narrative, the larger crackdown on hacktivism?
I mean, it's really difficult to really say if this crackdown is everything that you think it is, because there's so many different operations that we don't even understand that are happening. I mean, keep in mind that Anonymous had been knowingly, we're very aware that Anonymous was infiltrated by the FBI at least in 2010 and 2011. And there's one individual, Hector Monsiger, who went by the alias Sabu. He worked as an informant for the FBI and helped orchestrate a lot of these operations where the defendants in those cases have been convicted and have been sentenced to jail around the world. He masterminded a giant conspiracy while working as an FBI informant. So is there really a crackdown? It's hard to say, because when the government's also creating these hacktivists and then putting them in jail, it's not really a crackdown if you're just arresting your own people, But there's still people involved in the movement, and I don't think, as long as people have an internet connection, they're going to want to talk about things, and they're going to want to do things, and if the courts find it illegal, well, they're going to have to go to court, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming down. We're going to continue following this case. We'll have you back on very soon.
Thank you.